Welcome back, baseball fans. A 1973-76 off-season look. Tonight, we're going to continue looking at the Carryon players. Players who presently in the league with a card of either 73, 4, or 5. And we're going to take a look and see, are there ways to improve these teams by improving certain players? It's an option in the draft. We looked at 8 teams by team alphabetical order first last week. We're going to take another 8 teams on tonight, and we're looking to see if we can make some internal improvements, because sometimes improving your players internally is advantageous versus just drafting new players to fit around them. So we went through Arizona through to the White Sox, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we're going to pick up tonight with the Cincinnati Reds. And naturally, with 75 and 76 being world championship years, you're going to see a bunch of their players have these options. So let's just kind of go through this. The way this works is, this is the year the player is presently in the league. 73s, the 74s, and the 75s. And then over here, we'll vacate the common year. We'll highlight a year that we think is better. And then we'll look it up down here so you can see the card. First player is Dave Concepcion, and he has 2 improvements in 74 and 76, not necessarily 75. Let's take a look and see why that is. Mostly because he gets to be a Gold Glover. So 73 is the year we presently have. And it's a good year. It's 287 right here with a 760 OPS. It's an all-star for Pete's sakes. But the Gold Gloves start to roll in the following years. And if you want a 1 shortstop, that's way to go. He's got an OPS over 730 in 4 and 6, but not in 75. So I'm suggesting that 74 and 76 Dave Concepcion would be an improvement. We're going to skip some players, and then the next player is going to be Pete Rose. Now, this is one of the weirder improvements, as Pete is presently your 1973 National League Most Valuable Player. But he's in the outfield, which is fine. He's an outstanding outfielder. But they got some guy named Ken Griffey, and they just brought up George Foster. They have Geronimo. They have Rose. That's 4 mouths to feed in the outfield. And they just got rid of Bobby Tolan finally. And you'll see the flexibility of Rose. So 73, he wins the MVP award. But for Pete's sakes, no pun intended, he's 5th and 4th in MVP voting in their World Series years at ages 34 and 35. So do you want to move him to third base now? And then put Griffey in right, Foster in left, and Geronimo in center? Seems to make some sense, doesn't it? Because presently, the only other third baseman on your roster is Rod Gilbreth and Dennis Mankey. But you technically would put them out of work altogether if you move Rose to third base. Then what are you going to do with these roster spots? So it's an interesting discussion that the Reds are going to have to figure out. Because remember, you can just simply wait. Play Rose's 73. And then when that card expires, he moves over to third base. Simple as that. So do you want to hurry it up and get it there sooner, invalidating the 2 third basemen you have on your roster? Or are you content with maybe having Ken Griffey and Foster getting some time at designated hitter? I mean, we do have a DH in the National League, so there is room in the lineup for Pete Rose, Cesar Geronimo, George Foster, and Ken Griffey. The DH a year ago was Don Mincher. They once had Tony Perez and Lee May. They don't have Lee May anymore. I'm looking at this roster here. I don't see a DH. Right? You could have Rosen left, Gilbreth, Mankey, platoon at third. Barton's the backup catcher. So we'll see about that. Other improvements. Geronimo has his best year in 1976. Don Gullett statistically is a little better pitcher in 75 than 74, but he can't pitch on 3 days rest. And then one of the most bizarre, which is silly to say that Joe Morgan actually improves on a 75 season. This is one of the most ridiculous assertions in the whole. So here you go. He's got a 974 OPS in 75, 132 walks, and it goes to 10, 20, and 76. He's the MVP both years, folks. I mean, come on. But yeah, he goes from 17 homers to 27 home runs with that 76 card. Do you waste a draft pick to do that? Remember, Morgan can simply play through with a 75 card and then bounce into the 76 card. However, that means you've exhausted 3 of the 4 years of the 76 card. You might want to go 2 years with one and 3 years with another. I don't know. But, yeah. And again, if you improve, you can only add 2 players per year. So let's say, yeah. It's a lot to think about for the Reds. I mean, they lost the World Series a year ago, so you can understand how they want to get right back into it. And yeah, this is really a paralysis by over-analysis. There's so many things the Reds could do to distance themselves from the rest of the National League in this part of the timeline. Let's keep going. Next team is Cleveland. In 1976, by the way, Ray Fosse had left Cleveland to go to Oakland, but in 76, he returns and it's 300. Cesar Tovar, never associated with Cleveland. His last really good year is 74, but he can only play the outfield, which is still fine. Tom Hilgendorf has a really nice 75, but it's with the Phillies. And Oscar Gamble's got a really nice 75 as well. So Cleveland's has 4 options for improvement. Next, Colorado Rockies. This is interesting. Al Fitzmaurice can pitch on 3 days rest in 75 and 76. That could be very valuable to this team. Innings eater. Rick Monday has one of his best years in 76. Let's go check that year out while we're looking at random players here. Yeah, in 76, and he's still in center field too. So we're looking at, we've got his 74 card. So we're saying, is there improvement? So in 74, Rick's got 20 home runs, a 294, 842 OPS. Center field, center field. He has the ability to play center field. When he gets to LA later in his career, he's more of a corner outfielder. But in 76, he's got 32 dingers and is on the MVP top 20 with a modest 853 OPS. He presently has an 842 OPS. But getting the 20 more home runs would be nice. His slugging goes up 33 points. So yeah, you could do that with Rick Monday. Cost you a draft pick, but again, the expansion teams often do make moves like this because their farm systems aren't particularly good, but their the ability to take improvement of one of their guys over a period of 4 years is usually something that they do, and it could be that it's Monday and Fitzmaurice, or the other guy is Kingman in 76. And the stats don't say it, but anyway, he's an all-star with the Mets. Let's just say that. There he is. He's got an all-star. He's the 18th MVP, but he still doesn't have an 800 OPS. He does slug 506. Painful, really, folks. But yeah, you could say 75 Fitzmaurice, get him on 3 days rest. Let's get 32 homers out of Rick Monday. Let's get 37 home runs out of Dave Kingman in the Colorado altitude, Mile High City there. And let's just have some fun hitting 1 billion home runs in Colorado, right? So there is that option there. All right, next up, your Detroit Tigers. 75, Jerry Terrell goes from a 267 hitter to a 284 hitter. Yeah. Hey, it's something, folks, right? Here's an interesting one. Dave Chalk. And you're not going to see it here. We'll look at his stats. But what makes 75 such a neat year for Dave Chalk is his defense. He's an all-star in both 74 and 75. But in 75, he's a 1. He's a 1 at third base hitting 273. Now the Tigers have that answer. You know, they let Aurelio Rodriguez go and Ed Brinkman go, and they finally could go back to getting a 1 third baseman in Motown. That's really helped the Tigers, the old men of Detroit, who perennially go to the playoffs, even though we keep thinking they're too old to do so. So getting a 1 third baseman could be valuable. And here's a big one, Ron LeFleur. So he struggled with his 75 card, which was, I think, his second year in the league. Yeah, 74. We brought up the 75 card because it was available last year. But now 76 is available, and he's an all-star, and he's hitting .316, and he's got 58 stolen bases. That's a lot to like. You know? I mean, they really need a star. I mean, they're going to start losing their older stars, like, you know, like the Norm Cashes and the Al Kalines and so forth. They need a star. So maybe, could you imagine 76 LaFleur and 76 Mark Fidrich? That'd be a nice pair. You get the rookie pitcher of the year and get Ron LeFleur in one of his best years, and then suddenly that aging Tiger roster we were talking about isn't it so aging anymore. You could do all those things. You could do Chalk, you could do LaFleur, and you could do Fidrich. How about the Tigers? That'd be pretty cool. We've been predicting their doom for quite some time, and they've really been a star of the carryover league. I gotta say, the Detroit Tigers really have surprised me in the many, many years I've been doing this timeline, beginning, 68 all the way through now, that how consistent and how productive they are year in and year out without any. They never have a losing season, and they don't seem to ever miss the playoffs. All right, next up. Hey, this is great. Oh, this is fantastic news. So, Florida Marlins. And folks, if you don't have a team, if you're just watching this and you don't have a local sports team that in baseball that you like, I can't imagine why you'd watch this if you didn't. But be a Florida Marlins fan. They need help. They need fans. And they got some good news coming along. First thing is, they've won the Commissioner Award, which gives them a compensation pick in the draft. They have the 33rd pick in the draft. So they've moved up from the 8th round, forfeited that pick to get 2 picks in the 2nd round. So the Marlins have some wonderful stuff they can do in the year of 1976. Hal McRae barely misses the batting title, losing to his teammate George Brett. 332 to Brett's 333. Mary Guerrero has his best offensive year. Easy Ed Figueroa can pitch on 3 days rest for the Angels and the Yankees. So you have your choice. And Willie Montanez and Tom Bergmeyer, guys you got into their 75 cards, they have significantly better 76 cards. So for a team that doesn't have a farm system, the best way to go is to your dozen players and make them as best as you can possibly make them. I got to get into this Hal McRae card. I can go 75 Figueroa. And then I can decide of the other 3 which makes the most sense. Montanez and Bergmeyer are already good. Guerrero is pretty awful. So to get Mary Guerrero hitting 284, believe it or not, might make more sense than getting Willie Montanez to move up from 307 to 317, for instance. Or Tom Bergmeyer to go from a 280 ERA to a 250 ERA. I mean, they're all improvements, but you kind of want the biggest to move the floor up as high as you can. And that would be Guerrero in this case. All right, next up, the Houston Astros. Bob Watson has a nice 1975. I believe Bob Watson hit the millionth home run in 1975. It was a contest Major League Baseball had where there'd be a special prize to the baseball player who hit the millionth home run in the history of Major League Baseball. And on the same day, in the same hour, Bob Watson and Ken Singleton hit home runs a minute apart, and they had to get the time. They were in different time zones when this happened, and they had to compute which guy hit it first. And Watson beat Kenny Singleton out by like 20 seconds. That's how close it was in 2 different time zones. So, Bob Watson, 75 season, is one of the best he's going to have. He's never going to be a guy to hit 30 home runs. That's not his bag. But he always gets on base with walks. Nice OPS. We have his 73 card. And what we're saying is the 75 card, he gets to 870 OPS. 76, it's 830. Well, yeah, 75 statistically has got the best numbers. Sometimes, though, you're competing against the numbers of in a particular year. 76 was a weak year for hitting. So if you have an outstanding offensive card in 76, it's going to be better than most other. For instance, a 313 in 76 might be better on a strat card than a 324 in 1975. 76 was a lousy year, folks. I'm telling you. So, yeah, Watson 75. They have 2 good performances in 76, though, but they're by pitchers. We'll check them both out. Steve Mingori. Houston should start putting together a decent pitching staff really soon. It's taken a while. Mingori with Kansas City. There it is, 232 with a 114 whip in 76. And the other guy, one of their own guys, Ken Forsch, is actually a closer for them. Or part-time closer in 76. He has a career high, 19 saves in 1976. And yes, he's an all-star as a reliever. You know, not a lot of setup men go to all-star games, but Ken Forsch did with 19 saves for the year. 110 whip. And the funny thing is, they've been messing with him. Starter relief, going back and forth. You might want to settle into his 76 card as a reliever. When that card is up, you can move him into the rotation in like 79. He's a nice 1979 as a starter. All right, next up, Kansas City. Oh boy. Al Cowens has a pretty lackluster 74. They brought him in just as a corner outfielder versus lefties with good defense. In 75, he gets his stick up. The stick, he starts to swing the stick pretty good. But then he regresses in 76. Let's take a look at this. But then 77 would be the magic year for Al Cowens. So this is what you have to consider here. You want to keep improving him year to year, or just wait and do it all next year. So this is the Cowens we have, 74. 589 OPS, not very good, I get it. 75, it's really good, 742. 76 is bad, 639. But 77 is the year you want. The Gold Glove, second in MVP voting, all those extra base hits. Led the league in, well, didn't lead the league in any of those, but 32 doubles, 14 triples, 23 homers, 112 ribby. So leave well enough alone. Just go with the present card, and then in next year, get into that 77 card. All right. 76 was very good, obviously, to the Kansas City Royals, but particularly to 3 of their guys. Fred Patek will be a Double-A Steeler, we believe, with the similar defense and batting average, but he steals a lot more bases than 76. We spoke of Hal McRae earlier. George Brett's in the 75 card, hitting 308, but in 76, we got to do this. We have to show you this. Show you how this works, folks. If you're wondering what is so attractive about the 4-year carryover league for me and doing this all these many years, is that your Hall of Famers take it to a next level. And we'll show you how this works for Brett. This is sort of ridiculous, obscene, almost unfair to the rest of the American League. So Brett's going to hit 308. We got that. 809. Nice. He's also a 1 at third base, which is really cool. He's not going to be a 1 again. But 76, he's got a batting title. So if you want to get into that batting title, you're more than welcome to. And guess what, folks? You can do that for 4 years. When that card expires, 1, 2, 3, boom, it's 1980. And you get the 390 Brett card for 4 years. What's it mean, folks? It means George Brett will have batting title cards over a period of 8 years. Well, no, Carew hits 388 in one of those years, but that's not the point. The point is, George Brett will average 362 over a period of 8 years for the Kansas City Royals. That's why we play the Carryover League, folks. The Hall of Famers, you've been watching the series. You've seen Johnny Bench do some incredible things with his 1970 MVP card. We've seen Stargell, Willie Mays, Hank Aaron. So, yeah, the Hall of Famer, Tom Seaver, Don Sutton. The Hall of Famers do some remarkable stuff in a 4-year Carryover League because you get to skip the 294 year. You can completely ignore it. It never happened. Right? 294 and 78. Anyway, back to the Royals. Larry Gura. Let's check him out as well. Larry Gura. They really need a left-handed reliever after losing Steve Mingori. And Gura started this year. But check out 76. He's strictly a reliever with a 106 whip. I'm willing to do that for a year. And then we'll wait. Do that for a couple years. And then we'll wait until this 1978 card to get him back in the rotation. That would be pretty cool. Splittorff in the rotation, Gura in the bullpen, and then they could just add one more lefty. I made a note up here pointing to this column to suggest Gura should move to the bullpen as a reliever. Boy, the Royals would be tough, wouldn't they? Brett with the batting title, Gura in the bullpen, that'd be a lot of improvement. All right. Last team tonight we'll do is the Dodgers. First guy we look at, hey, we're gonna have some fun here. Tommy John has a good 74. He misses 75. Let's figure out what happened in 75. What happened? Why did Tommy John? Let's go take a look. See what Baseball Reference says here. Well, here we go. So we got his 73 card, which is good. It's a 115 whip. We're saying in 74, it's even better. He lowers his ERA, but doesn't pitch on 3 days rest. Then in 1975, he did not play in the major or minor leagues because he had an eponymous surgical procedure, folks. Just thought I'd let you know that. He had an eponymous surgical procedure and was unable to pitch in the year of 75. By the way, these 1.1s you see here, you're not going to see that again. Everything he throws after the eponymous surgical procedure will arrive at the home plate below the hitter's knees somewhere in the dirt. And he'll just throw a bunch of ground balls the rest of his career with a 129, 135 whip for most of the time. But 73 and 74 are available for Tommy John. Next up is teammate Messersmith. And he's got some shiny Andy Messersmith. What a fun career this guy had. He has some nice Angels cards. Now he's getting into some good Dodger stuff here. Yeah, he had these really nice California cards, 20-game winner. So he's presently in a 73 card with a 109 whip. He's an all-star the next 3 years, one with Atlanta, the other 2 with the Dodgers. Same low whip. Led the league in that in 74. Had 40 starts in 75. So, yeah, John and Messersmith would be your improvements for the Dodgers. Not a lot of other improvements for this team. For a team that missed the playoffs, they're going to run it back and hope they just get out of the slump they've been in. They believe Crawford's in the best year. Willie Davis, this is going to be his last year in L.A. Davey Lopes, 73. Davey Lopes doesn't really get better until 77, 78. He's got a gold glove in one of those years. I think it's 78, which surprises me. Buckner is a 1, hitting 300. Garvey's in an MVP year. The Toy Cannon's got 32 dingers. Steve Yeager will never improve upon 74. That's a magical year for him. And Ron Say and Charlie Huff, these other Dodgers, they don't get a lot better until the 77, 78 World Series years. That's why you only see minimal improvement for the Dodgers. So, that's the 8th team for tonight. We've done half of our league alphabetically by team, looking at internal improvements of Carryon players. We'll pick this series up in the next 2 Tuesdays and get through all 32 teams' improvements. And this will help speed up the drafting process. And oftentimes, when it's time to draft a particular year, if you're struggling to find a pick, like a rookie, a free agent, guy off the waiver wire, and there's just not a clear fit, you might just want to improve a guy just to do it, just to take a player in that year. And that's what happens a lot of times in the league. Been a fun look tonight. Hope you're enjoying this analysis of the Carryon players, and we'll see you again next week.